Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and have I got a show for you tonight? Wow, it's maybe not what I expected to be talking about this Wednesday night, but oh my God, it's all going off. Qatar again. I thought it was over. I didn't think we'd ever be talking about this again, but we are. We'll also be talking about Sir Jim and his big plans. He wants to win titles. He wants to win Champions Leagues. He doesn't want to buy Galacticos. People who've spoken to him this week have said they've never seen anything like it in 20 years. Positivity. PR. Is it spin? I don't think it is. I think he does want to win. The bottom line is, though, we can all speak words. Ed Woodward spoke words. Can he deliver on those words? We'll talk about some of that, of course. We're also going to be talking about this story around Qatar. It's amazing. And I've got an analogy for this, I reckon, but it's amazing. So apparently the Qatari bid now wasn't what we all thought it was. It was not fake, but they didn't have the money. And now Qatar have reacted to that tonight, saying that they did. And all this going on while the Glazers take £30 million out of the club. Coincidence? I don't know. We'll get into that. Anyway, look, before we get into all of that, one thing that we do know is that Manscaped are a fantastic male grooming brand and you can get 20% off with the code TUS and free worldwide shipping. What is Manscaped? Well, I've got 4 products here. I've got the lawnmower for down there. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. Absolutely makes a big difference. Fantastic. You'll love it. I've got the weed whacker for up your nose. I don't mind trying that one out live on air. You get to a certain age, it's very important. If I saw a picture of myself over Christmas from 3 Christmases ago, really good picture in the snow with the family, I'm smiling there, big bloody nasal hair sticking out. Not anymore, not with Manscaped. You got the Handyman, if you're a busy person and you like to be clean shaven. I use this around the edges and around there and there. Fantastic, retro Handyman, love that. This is the one I use the most. The beard trimmer, 11 different lengths, absolutely power. It's so quick and it gets the job done quickly. 20% off, free worldwide shipping, fantastic products, Manscaped. You won't regret it. It's an amazing product, really good top quality. Give it a try with the code TUS. Links in the description or scan the QR code next to me. Right, big shout out to Manscaped. Amrabat was good today, says Danya. Didn't even talk about Amrabat on the morning show. Was meant to speak about him. He's gone. He's finished. At the moment, there is very, very, very little chance that we keep him at Manchester United. But look, let's get into the show. Some amazing stuff coming out around Sir Jim Ratcliffe, just to give you a little bit of a hint of what we're going to be talking about in a couple of minutes' time after we just assess this, what I think is nonsense around Qatar. But just some of the stuff that we've got coming out from around Sir Jim and people who've been in conversations with him this week. Interesting, I suppose, that the head of... let me just find this quote. The chair of the Manchester United Supporters Trust says, "I'm no fan of the Glazers. They never gave us the opportunity to talk. These are people saying the right things in relation to Sir Jim. They're saying that there's nothing off the table. Let's go then. I'm not going to wait until I'm 72 for the next chance." So look, people at Manchester United Supporters Trust have been speaking to Sir Jim and to David Brailsford and Raymond Blanc. Now he's a chef. Jean-Claude Blanc, that's the one. And they're very positive about it. Some people would say, well, I'm not going to listen to the Manchester United Supporters Trust. They don't represent me. I sort of understand that in a way. But ultimately, I don't think it's a bad thing when the new partial owner of the club is talking to fans. I'm not going to be bitter and twisted about that. I think that's a positive for exactly the reasons said there. We know the fan base is divided. We know it shouldn't be. And we know people will get jealous because they've not been part of those conversations. I've got my own thoughts about the fan forum. I don't think it's a fair reflection of the fan base worldwide, but I don't really care if Sir Jim talks to them because it's an official fan forum. And I think that's always a positive thing. So we're going to delve into some of the stuff he said to those people. So whilst it's third hand, he has still delivered information about transfers, his intention, and what he wants from this Man United side. So we're going to be talking about that. So Jim can't win titles until he gets rid of the crap, says Luke. And I think that's going to be a massive part of it. But let's just hit the major headline tonight. I don't know how much you're going to be interested in this. There seems to be a hell of a lot of people interested on social media. I've been tagged into a lot of it. I don't really understand why. I can explain my part. You know, I never believed that certain journalists or accounts were on the payroll of Sajim or Qatar in this process, because if someone was going to do that, we're a massive community. Nobody approached us to do it. I don't think that actually happened. I think what this was all about was a choice between a full sale and the choice between propping the Glazers up. And I and many others drew a line in the sand very early on. I remember when the Elliott Group from America were going to do it. Anybody who kept the Glazers in power was an enemy of the football club. And that was my stance. So when Sir Jim did a deal for 25%, I wasn't very happy. But it is what it is. You got to move on. You got to hope it's going to work. And that's the reality. We are in this situation now. So I found it incredible today when this story came out from what is, you know, from all accounts meant to be very credible information, that the Qatari bid was not what it seemed. That the money wasn't there, that they couldn't actually buy the club. They didn't produce documents to buy the club. And, you know, you can take that as face read, which then leads to a social media pylon, because it's always about one-upmanship from people saying, I told you Sir Jim was the right person. I told you all these people with their Qatari flags were stupid. To which I've just got to say, I don't understand this argument. I really don't understand it. So anybody that wanted Qatar is an idiot. And we should all have just got behind Sir Jim's 25% get into bed with Glazer bid. I don't know whether I'm missing something here. The Qatari bid may well be not what it seemed, but I didn't know that. Nobody knew that till today. Nobody was telling us it wasn't real. So I don't get it. I really just don't get it. It's like, it's weird to me. I don't get what the angle is here. Sir Jim has bought 25%. The Glazers have won, and we've known that for months. I don't really care or see what the point is of dragging up whether Qatar had the money or not. It doesn't really matter. You know, if I'm getting married and I've got two options, one of them is, you know, a very reasonable option. We've known each other for years, and one of them's the dream option. And the dream option doesn't deliver. So you just get married to the steady one. And then when you're married to the steady one, you found out that the dream one, well, wasn't everything that it seemed to be, if you know what I mean. It doesn't really matter. I'm already married now. Doesn't matter. I'm not bothered. That choice is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. I've made my choice, and that's what we've got. So I don't really understand what this whole Qatar thing is about. For me, I wanted a full sale. I wanted the debt gone. If that was never going to happen and Qatar never had the money, well, that would have been very disappointing, wouldn't it, if they bought the club, but they didn't. Sir Jim got the club. And overarching all of that, I don't really understand what the argument is, other than the people who wanted Sir Jim going, ha ha, told you so, but you told us nothing. You wanted a full sale, Sir Jim didn't buy all the club, so you're wrong as well. The people who won were the Glazers. The Glazers wanted somebody to buy a small portion and stay in power, and that's what's happened. Nobody's won in this. There was no Sir Jim versus Qatar and battle between the fan base, because Sir Jim wanted all of it, didn't get all of it. Qatar wanted all of it, didn't get all of it. The Glazers are still here. I don't really understand what we're arguing about tonight. I really, really don't. Unless I'm missing something amazing. And as for all these people who apparently were on the payroll, like people are talking about the Sky journalist and Rio Ferdinand and everyone like that, well, I just don't. I don't see that. I really don't. And I don't think it really matters at the end of the day, because they didn't win. And also, I don't for 1 minute think that if Qatar did have the money, the Glazers were going to sell. I don't think they were ever going to sell. I think they won. But interestingly, just coming out in the last few minutes from Ben Jacobs, he's saying this, that those close to Sheikh Jassim refute the SEC filings outlined that widely reported throughout the process, and deny any failure to provide proof of funds. They indicate they gave all the necessary financial commitments, including a bank guarantee signed by the CEO of Qatari National Bank. Qatar maintained their final written offer was just short of $6 billion, with $1.7 billion additional investment, and this was specified in written form. They add Jassim was willing to go higher, but pulled out because he believed he was being played or fleeced. The SEC filings numbers and narrative strongly contradicts this, as previously outlined. Those close to the sale process insist if the above numbers were accurate, they would have gladly accepted the Qatari offer. I mean, I just don't care. I just don't care. I really just don't care, because it doesn't matter. It's gone. The opportunity's gone. Qatar say they have the money. The Glazers said if they'd had the money, they would have sold. I don't for 1 minute think that the Glazers were going to sell. I never thought they were going to sell. So who do you believe? Do you believe that Qatar wanted to buy the full club, or do you believe that the Glazers wanted to sell the club, but the money wasn't there? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I think the Glazers got what they want. They're here. If they wanted to sell the whole club, Sir Jim wanted to buy the whole club. So it just doesn't make any sense, does it? It doesn't make any sense. Qatar never had the money. Glazers would have sold to Qatar if they'd had the money. I know people will say, well, it can't be spin because the people who are putting the information out there are credible. But Sir Jim wanted to buy all the club and he wasn't allowed to. He had to do a 25% deal. So for the Glazers now to say, we would have sold the whole club to Qatar, but they didn't have the money, I just don't believe that. I do not believe the Glazers would have sold the club to Qatar if they'd had the money. I don't necessarily believe Qatar don't have the money. But the big problem here is, if the Glazers say we would have sold the money if Qatar had the money, but they didn't have it, so we had to do a deal with Sir Jim. Sir Jim wanted to buy the whole club. Then he wanted to buy 70%. Then he wanted to buy 50%. Then he wanted to buy 25% because the Glazers wouldn't sell him the whole club. It's all a joke. And on the same day this comes out, the same day we find out the Glazers have taken £30 million out of Manchester United Football Club to pay their legal fees in the sale process. So they're getting £1 billion from Sir Jim Ratcliffe in their pocket, but they're not paying their own legal fees. Manchester United Football Club is 30 million quid. And their end of the lesson, it matters not. The Glazers won, and I don't trust anything that comes out in association with the Glazers. I just don't trust them. We've had 20 years, and if you trust them, that's up to you. I don't trust them. I'm not really interested on whether Qatar had the money or not because Sir Jim's bought 25%, the Glazers are still here, and that's the truth. And we can argue about one-upmanship, which I don't really get, but the reality is we are where we are. The Glazers have won. It doesn't matter what happened with Qatar. Sir Jim didn't get all the club either. The Glazers are still here. They've took 30 million quid out the club to spend on their legal fees, even though they're all going to pocket hundreds of millions each. I just don't see what we're arguing about. The reality is what we're about to talk about. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's plans. All this is just, I don't know. And then you go on social media and people are going, yeah, all the people with Qatari flags sit down. And I'm like, oh my God, what happens in their head then? What's going on in their head? Anybody who wanted a full sale, sit down. I don't think any of these people a year ago were going, we want 25% for Sir Jim and the Glazers to stay. We want 25% for Sir Jim and the Glazers to stay. I mean, that's what they're championing tonight. They're going, yeah, all those people who wanted a full sale, sit down, you look right idiots now. Well, sorry, still want a full sale, still want the Glazers out. That was the principle of the sale, I think. It's weird. It's all very, very weird, but we've got to cover it because it's breaking news, but it doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm sure there will be more that comes out about it. But you know what? Even if Qatar prove they had the funds to buy the club and the Glazers are lying, it won't make any difference because poor old Sir Jim's done the deal. We're not getting a full sale now. We've got Sir Jim. Is Sir Jim interested in Vinicius Jr.? It's absolute bullshit, Harrison. Absolute bullshit. Real Housewives of Manchester United says, Nick, why are we still talking about Qatar? Well, we're not. We're going to move on now, KFJ. Can't help but feel the Qatari bid farce story is a social media campaign to make us fans accept Sir Jim and the Glazers' inevitable mediocrity, says Sumi. The fees paid to the lawyers are eye-watering. Glazers won't be leaving without putting up a serious fight. Apparently the Jim photo was an AI generation, says Akash. Jim can't win titles until he gets rid of the crap. Well, £30 million going out of the football club shouldn't just be brushed over. And this is what I mean. On a quiet day, we'd be doing a video on that, calling it total disgrace. £30 million going out of the football club to pay the Glazers' fees. And we're just going, yeah, but Qatar didn't have the money. I mean, is that part of the spin? Like, this is big news. £30 million going out of Manchester United to pay the Glazers' legal fees. It's ridiculous. They've earned £1 billion. They're all going to get a few £100 million each. They're getting more than £100 million each, the siblings, right? But even if they were only getting £100 million each, £5 million off each of them would cover those legal fees. Oh, so you've only made £95 million now. Piss off. It's disgusting. And you know what? Part of me does think, wow, are we really that thick as a fan base? We get a few sound bites about winning titles. We get a few sound bites about Qataris not having the money. And suddenly we're all going, yeah, the Glazers were the right option. The Glazers and Sir Jim was the dream team. Oh, he's had 30 million out. Well, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Qatar never had the money. 30 million quid out of this football club. We're not doing anything in the January transfer. 30 million quid these days gets you a decent player. And we're just sat there going, it's fine, it's fine. We're over £500 million in debt. 30 million quid going out the club. Oh yeah, we can afford that. It's nothing, 30 million. Take it. Tell you what, take 40 million. Bloody joke. I think Mark, fans should embrace a local man, an English man, part buying a club, at least in part he will be hands-on, not another Qataris, he's bounty hunter. Don't really understand what that point is, but at least you've made it. I agree with you, Mark. Glazers never wanted to sell. It was evident from their statement about seeking strategic investment options. It never said they are looking for buyers, says Mojo. If anybody believes that the Glazers were going to sell this football club in its entirety, they're a fool, in my opinion. Those words don't mean anything that have come out this afternoon. I don't for 1 minute think they wanted to sell the football club, because I think they could have sold the football club to Sir Jim and they didn't. Gavin says, full sale will only happen if Ratcliffe fails, and that breaks my heart. If we fail again, then I doubt an honourable owner will want us. I think about it. We will always be a cash cow for someone. That's from Gavin. De Gea says they wouldn't sell McTominay for 30 million and they took 30 million themselves. Zuteng says Glazers are taking equity out of the club. I understand it's shameless, but when will people realise they own the club? They do what they want. No, they can do what they want. You're absolutely right. It's not criminal. They own the football club. The Glazers taking 30 million out of United is the reason why we are loaning and doomed, says Ray Carl Brown Amori. And I don't believe that Qatar didn't have 6 billion quid, says Luke. Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? Qatar, one of the richest countries in the world, couldn't raise 6 billion quid. I mean, I don't know. But look, let's move on. Let's move on to something that I actually wanted to lead the show on. So I wanted to talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and I wanted to talk about the reality. Because whatever happened with the sale, and I think we all know what happened with the sale, the Glazers didn't want to stay. They didn't want to leave. We now have Sir Jim Ratcliffe in the club, and there are some very interesting sound bites coming out around Sir Jim Ratcliffe that I want to share with you tonight, because we're interested. We're interested, aren't we? We're interested. We're in London, aren't we? Well, we're not in London, but they're interesting because I said this on Christmas Eve. Remember that Christmas Eve stream? Didn't really want to be doing it, but it was massive news. The deal had been announced on Christmas Eve at 4 p.m. Manchester United. Anyway, when that was happening, somebody in the chat, one of you great people, said, what will happen next, Mark? And I said, in my opinion, it's very obvious what will happen next. Over the next 2 months, we'll start to get PR pieces from Sir Jim, from Ineos, from Manchester United. That's not spin. I mean, it technically probably is, but it's positivity. They've got to absolutely drown us United fans in positivity. They've got to make us excited and optimistic, and they have to do that because the deal is 25% with the evil Glazers. Even at the weekend when Sir Jim was there, the crowd was singing Glazers out. Whether they're a pantomime villain or a real villain, they are a villain. There's no guilt in saying, I don't trust the Glazers. Every Man United fan should say that, and any Glazer should understand why. It's not unfair criticism. They're not good for the football club. It's proven. So what Sir Jim and Ineos and Sir David Brailsford have to do is put positive stories out there, because they're in a relationship with the Glazers. It's like when your mum and dad break up, you go around your dad's houses at the weekend and he gets with a right bitch. He's got to spin the positive. He's got to take you swimming. He's got to take you to the cinema, McDonald's. She's got to make a bloody effort as well, or stay out the way. He's got a lot of work to do, Sir Jim, and he's got to put positivity out there. He's got to take us to the cinema. He's got to buy us some sweets. Of course he's got to do that, because he's got into bed with a right bad bunch of people, the Glazers. So, of course, I sit here, and I'm going to read you some of the stuff now, but I sit here, probably like 99% of our fan base, going, it's words. It's words. I hope it happens, but it's words. And I've heard these words before. So what we want are actions. We need to see, we need to see these things delivered. And as much as it's encouraging when you read it, and I certainly think they've got some of the right people involved, like Jean-Claude Blanc and Sir David Brailsford, they've got to deliver. So let's dissect some of the stuff that's been said. Ineos, this is coming from The Athletic. And The Athletic have been speaking to a number of people this week who were party to the chats that Sir Jim had with fan groups at the start of the week for over an hour. So there was a lot of information in there. So Athletic have been gathering those sources. And this is what we've got tonight. Ineos want to fix the sporting side of things first. Sir Dave Brailsford was very focused at the meeting. He's trying to create an elite culture. Jean-Claude Blanc said less, but he listened, he was friendly, and he was social. A person present at the meeting with Ineos said, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is quite blunt. He was limited in what he could say, but all he said was, we are here and we're going to stay here. Another person present at the meeting with Ineos, they alluded to the fact that they spent the last year researching Manchester United, our history, what worked and what didn't. And this, to me, those three little bits there, let's just dissect those first. Mojo's just gifted a membership, by the way. Those bits are absolutely essential. When I look at United, and I'm sure many of you do as well, the fact that they've said that they've spent the last year researching Manchester United, what works and what didn't, the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was quite blunt and said he wants to stay here for the long term, and the fact that Sir David Brailsford was very focused and he's trying to create an elite culture. Well, those three things straight away are music to my ears. You know, it's classic ABBA. It's absolutely fantastic. Mojo's just gifted 5 memberships. He's a star. But I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. I want a full sale. I want the Glazers gone. We all want that, but this is the reality. And, you know, we don't have to hear this stuff. This stuff doesn't have to come out, so you can't just ignore it. Of course, you've got to see it happen. But when I hear that Sir David Brailsford wants to create an elite culture, and when I hear that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's here for the long term, and when I hear that they've been studying what's been going right and wrong over the last 12 months, well, all those things are good. As I said, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a Manchester United fan. What's he been doing for the last 10 years? You know, just renewing his membership, watching Chelsea. Like, of course he's been watching United. And if he's been watching United, he's got the same opinions. Well, not the same, but he's got opinions. He'll have an opinion on Bruno. He'll have an opinion on Harry Maguire. He'll have an opinion on Scott McTominay. This is what we forget. Like, unless Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a completely and utterly unique... I've not met a Man United fan in the last decade that has told me they like every single player and everything's fine. You know, you can speak to Ricky. He don't like Rashford. He don't like Bruno. He loves McTominay. He loves Maguire. He loves Dan James. You know, you can speak to Faz. He wants Jose Mourinho in charge. You can speak to Beth. She never liked De Gea. She loved Onana. You know, you can speak to me. I like Luke Shaw. I like Rashford. I like Bruno. I love Rasmus. You know, I like Martinez. I don't want to get rid of Casemiro. I don't want to get rid of Varane. You speak to another fan. We've got to get rid of Varane. We've got to get rid of Casemiro. We've got to get rid of Luke Shaw. So everybody's going to have different opinions. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe's surely not going to sit there and go, I want to keep everybody. Let's give them all a chance. He's got to come in and have an idea of what he wants to get rid of. The thing that my big thing is, I think they want an elite culture. I think they know the problems, and I think they want to be here to change things. But I'm going to say I just don't think they will. I don't think they will, because I don't think it's that easy. Football is so... We're in debt. You can't walk into Man United and say, sell him, sell him, sell him, sell him, sell him. You can't do that. It's not going to happen. I think there are players within that football club that are going nowhere, and we know they're going nowhere. And therefore, your words don't mean anything, because if you're coming in with ruthless, brutal changes, that means anybody can go. And I don't believe anybody can go. I could probably name you 5 or 6 players right now that aren't going anywhere. And some of you would like them to go. So I just don't think that's possible. I think that there will be some changes, and they will be ruthless to a certain extent, but not to the extent that needs to be done. And I don't blame Ineos for that. I think they just know, you know, they can't get rid of certain players because it's just not going to be possible to do it. I don't think it will. So Jim will be want the best for the club, but not sure if his best will be good enough, says James. Daniel's just gifted a membership as well. Thank you, Daniel. Just to be clear, this 30 million is different from dividends, right? Yeah, it's to cover their legal fees, Shahin. That 30 million could have gone on a new defender, says Tumbleweed. I don't believe, and Luke says, I don't believe that Qatar didn't have the 6 billion. So anyway, let's just carry on. There's more to be read here. So David Brailsford was very impressive in his analysis, apparently. He spoke at length about the desire to learn from history and drew on the unique elements of Man United's success from past eras as we move forward. That's interesting, isn't it? So David Brailsford drew on the past successes as a way to move forward. Well, there's only one past success that has worked in United's history that he could be talking about there. Youth. Class of 92, Busby Babes. They're the two big themes in our history of success, because the class of 92 led to 99, and the Busby Babes, obviously we had the tragedy and the rebuild, but it led to, titles before the tragedy, and it also led to the rebuild of the team for the 68 European Cup, our first European Cup. So I would say that Sir David Brailsford is alluding there to the youth, which is very, very important to us. But also that has its potential negatives. I think it's fair to say that there are some youth players at United that are still here and live off the fact that they're from the youth who shouldn't be here. We need to be more ruthless with the youth, I think. But I think that's what he's talking about there. Ineos wants to not necessarily sign Galacticos and big names, but exciting and dynamic players. They want to combine this with strong leadership that has vision and purpose from the managers and captains. Everything they said was very exciting. So this is another quote from one of the sources that was in the room with them this week. And I think I've got to say this is a positive for me. I have to say this is a positive. We need to stop the Galactico signings. It's never worked. The Galactico signings are, and don't laugh because I'm talking about price tags here. When you spend £80 million on Anthony, that's a Galactico signing. When you spend £80 million on Harry Maguire, that's a Galactico signing. Jadon Sancho, 75 million. Pogba, 89 million. So there's just, Di Maria at the time for 60 million was a Galactico signing. We're talking many years ago now, and inflation, that would be the equivalent of about 80, 90 million pounds now. Those sort of signings need to stop because there's absolutely no thought process. We just go, Di Maria's a good player. Might want to go to PSG, but let's do it. Oh, Man City are looking at Harry Maguire, 80 million. Let's do it. Oh, Jadon Sancho, he's an English player that needs to come back to the Premier League, 75 million. Let's do it. Paul Pogba, oh, we let him go for free as a youth player, 89 million. Let's do it. But we don't look at the player profile. We don't look at the player personality. We don't look at the suitability. So I'm absolutely on board with stopping Galactico signings and looking at exciting, dynamic players. And I think what that means is personality players. So I think this needs to happen. It's the Brighton approach. I mean, Brighton, I think this month alone have just gone and bought two young players that everyone's going, well, maybe United should have been looking at those. So I think this is the Dan Ashworth reason we're looking at Dan Ashworth. We need to be far less lazy in our recruitment. Our recruitment's lazy. We see a player, we overpay, we give big wages, and we give big agent fees. It's stupid. It's lazy, isn't it? It's like playing Football Manager with the cheat code. You just go, oh, I can't be bothered to scout anyone. He's a good player, buy him. He's a good player, buy him. What we need to do is actually invest in good scouting. Find the hidden gems. Put some work in. And I think that's something that will happen. I think that will happen under this ownership model. Another person who met Ineos, it was so different from anything we've heard from the Glazers. Football first. Decision making based on what will bring sporting success, not what will generate income. Well, sporting success, as we've been saying for many years, and the Glazers are idiots, sporting success leads to financial success, especially when you're Manchester United. We've seen it. I remember for Christmas in the year 2000, maybe 2001, Man United released a VHS video and a DVD called The Promised Land, which was basically a promotion for Vodafone on tour. I mean, this was after the treble. Manchester United generate money when they're successful. That's not a lie. Anybody who's old enough will remember. There was a video that came out for Christmas called The Promised Land, and it was basically United on tour, and it was Vodafone heavy. I'm sure it was Vodafone at the time. But, this is not what the Glazers have tried to do since 2005, and brandify United was already happening. So if we are successful on the pitch, we will make money off the pitch. And we haven't been doing that. We've been focusing off the pitch and not really keeping an eye on success on the pitch. So really, really important that starts happening. But this was the big bit for me. A person who met with Ineos said they want success and prestige, not money. Setting the standard where you have to compete for the title and the final stages of the Champions League every year. It's not about settling for fourth. It was so refreshing. Now that, I think, is probably the most important bit of what we've had leaked here from these meetings. This, to me, is the most important thing, because if they're saying that they want to set the standard where we compete for the title every year and go into the final stages of the Champions League every year, then recruitment, stadia, selling players, getting rid of toxic deadwood, transfer fees, all that doesn't matter. We could spend hours talking about the individual things that need to happen. It's all solved in that statement. If they want to set the standard that we compete for the title every year and go into the final stages of the Champions League every year, you can't do that without all the other things working. So that, to me, is the biggest statement, and I'm encouraged it's been said, and it's probably going to be said when he does a public interview, but it's been said in this fan forum, and it's really important. It's really important because when you say that, you either become Ed Woodward, who said there's nothing we can't do at this football club and looks a complete and utter twat, or you become somebody who actually delivers. And it really is that. You either deliver or you're just talking. And we're going to find out. Because nobody should be impressed with words. Man United are going to win the title in 3 years. Oh, I've heard that about 6 times in the last 10 years. So, but the fact that Sir Jim is saying that they want to set the standard around success and prestige, and the money will come from that, not the other way around, but setting the standard where you compete for the title every year. I mean, we've been saying this for years. I grew up with this. Well, not in the 80s, but, when Sir Alex got things going from the early 90s, every year you competed for the title. I mean, I can't, from 92 to the year that Sir Alex retired in 2013, I can't even... there would have been, I think, around, 04, 03. But there's not many years in that time we didn't compete for the title. There's probably only 2 or 3 times in that 20-year period that we didn't compete for a title. We didn't always win it, but that's what we should be doing. We are the Bayern Munich of England. We are the Juventus of England. We are the Real Madrid of England. We should be competing for the title every single year. And the fact that that's been stated by Ineos and Sir Jim is very, very important. But look, it doesn't fill me with excitement. It doesn't fill me with optimism. There's a lot of work to be done here. But the fact that they want to do that is encouraging. I'll be honest, I don't know whether they can do that. I don't know whether football's like that anymore. I mean, look, as an owner of a business, when you're pitching something, you've got to overreach and you've got to try and do it. But can Man United get back to a point where they're competing for the title every year? Man City are doing it now, so it's not impossible. But I think, if we're going to... I was thinking about this afternoon. Do you think... Throw it open. Do you think, one... Scott Stevens has just gifted 5 memberships, by the way. You're an absolute legend, Scott. Welcome to the Members Club. Get your badge in the chat. One, do you think it's possible that Manchester United can get back to competing for titles every year? And 2, how? Because I'll answer what I think. It is possible. Man City are doing it now. Sustained success is possible. But to do it, you've got to have everything, as Will would say on the podcast, purring. Everything, every area's got to work. Man City have amazing facilities. They've got an amazing coaching setup. They've got an amazing recruitment setup. They've got a very good fitness department. They've got an amazing squad. So to do it, you need all those things. Now, unfortunately, we are not Man City, and we will not be Man City for many years. We are straddled with debt. Our stadium needs money spending on it, a lot of money. Our infrastructure isn't the best. Our fitness and recovery is not the best. Our coaching is not the best. Our recruitment is not the best. So when Sir Jim and Ineos say they want to set the standard where we're competing for the title every year, That's great. But not the cynic, the realist in me says, how are you going to do that? Because we don't set the standard in so many areas of our football club, and it's going to take a long time and a lot of money to do that. We can't turn a tap and become the Man City of the Premier League. We can, if we put things right, become the Arsenal of the Premier League, where there is revenue, where you can turn things around. But then Arsenal aren't winning titles either, are they? So I think it's great to set that standard, but it's very, very hard to do it. But if he does it, let's not forget these conversations, because I think it's virtually impossible to get Man United back competing for titles every year. And if he does it, build a statue. Build a statue. Hands up. Build a statue, because I don't think it's easy. I think it's virtually impossible. And let's not forget as well, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, people keep saying, I listen to these people who are in the meetings with him, and the one thing that's not being reported is they're talking like this never happened with the Glazers. It's really exciting what he wants to do. Hold on a minute, mate. The Glazers are still here. They're not gone. They own the fucking club. Like, he's here to sort the football side out with his 25%. The Glazers are still here. They still might want dividends next year or in a few years' time. And that's the big problem. It's not a full sale. If Sir Jim was the full owner, and I wish he was, I really do. In this reality, I wish he was. If he was in charge, then there's ways he can put money into the club. But when you only own 25%, why would you build a new stadium? Which you can. That's not financial fair play. You can build a stadium by putting money into the club. You can build a new training ground. That's not financial fair play. But why would he do that? Because he doesn't own the whole club. Why should the Glazers reap the benefits of him pumping hundreds of millions of pounds in? So, we've used this so many times in relation to the manager over the years. Jose, Ten Hag now, Ollie. Whether you liked them or not, I think it was always fair to say that with the Glazers in charge and how they run a football club, every manager was always fighting with one arm tied behind their back, sometimes two. I mean, Jose, I keep saying this, he wanted to sell players and they wouldn't let him do it. You recruit one of the best managers in the world and then you don't let him do his job. You recruit one of the best managers in the world and then you tie his arms behind his back. It's very, very hard to succeed when you've got your hands tied behind your back. And that's something I'm going to say in defence of Sir Jim. Very, very quickly, he could find himself with his hands tied behind his back because he doesn't have all the power, which is why I always said a lot of Sir Jim Ratcliffe supporters who wanted him over Qatar lived off the lie, and I don't know where this came from, that there would be a pathway to a full sale in 2026. They don't talk about it anymore, but they did. They used to say he'll buy 25% now and then he'll buy all of the club in 2026. And we've not seen that pathway. And 2026 is only 2 years away. So we've not seen that pathway. In fact, over the next 18 months, I saw it written down today that the Glazers can actually forcefully sell the club and Sir Jim can't do anything about it. So this pathway to a full sale, we need that. We do need that, because that, quite rightly, makes everything seem a little better. But look, the noise is good. The noise is good and it's encouraging, but, it is just noise at the moment. They've got to deliver and they'll know that themselves. Nice plans, but Glazers still rule financing, says Mario Franco. Martial ordered to train alone to improve his fitness. Our club is truly a mess. Hats off to Eric to try and remove the culture, says Geordie. Welcome to the Members Club, Satyam. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Scott Stevens did 5 memberships as well. I think we said that, but brilliant. Thank you, Scott. Hope Jim's not too old to make the changes needed, says Ross. He's only 71. I mean, not that I'm close to being 71, but 71's no age. Like, he's got, he could be here for like 25 years. Rupert Murdoch's still alive, isn't he? I'm not so sure that Bruno would not be sold when you got ex-players moaning about him on a regular play basis. Can see them getting into Jim's ear. Who's been moaning about, what ex-players have been moaning about Bruno, Glennie? And I thought Sir Jim was a supporter. Why does he need to research to know what's wrong? As for legal fees, maybe that's why we're selling our youth players, says Cyber Spider. So Jim will want the best for the club, but not sure his best will be good enough, says James. And is it possible, Mark, that Man City did it, but there is 115 charges that made it possible? It's going to take a few years for us. All good things take time, says Bounty. Well, look, this has got nothing to do with anything. I want to talk about Bruno in a moment, actually. This has got nothing to do with anything. It might have entered your head. It certainly has entered mine. If Man City, and this is a big if Man City got done for their 115 charges and the Premier League had teeth and booted them, 2 divisions down, that's Man City out the way for 3 years. There's a big void then. That's Man City out the way, not earning money, not earning the revenue. There's a big void then. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen for 1 minute. I don't think it will happen. But if Man City got booted 2 leagues down, there's a big void then. And suddenly it's open season for anybody. So if Man United could sort themselves out, it's a big ask, but there could be a void. There could be. I mean, why are Man United any different to Liverpool or Arsenal? We are at the moment. They've got a better team, better coaches, better financial situation. But if United could sort it out, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, look, in summary, very, very interesting. And as I said, all that stuff we've mentioned there is coming from people who've been speaking to Sir Jim this week, which is encouraging, very, very encouraging indeed. But they've got to deliver. And there are more questions than answers on how you do that when he's only in charge of the footballing side. He probably doesn't set the budget. Somebody in the chat said something very intelligent this morning, and I missed it. Apologies. They said, do you think the reason John Murtough is staying at Manchester United, if he stays at Manchester United, is because the Glazers own the football club and they need to keep somebody there at Old Trafford that is their guy? And John Murtough is a Glazer guy. Great point. Great point. We moan about why you'd keep somebody who has, presided over some really bad decisions. But the Glazers need to keep somebody at Old Trafford that is their guy. And having said that, there will be more than that anyway. I mean, Patrick Stewart, who's the CEO now, he's been there for a long time. Maybe he's a Glazer guy. So, look, I don't know. The honest answer is. The Daily Mail are saying that Anthony Martial has been told to train on his own to improve his fitness before Erik ten Hag will consider picking him. Martial is not injured, but not deemed fit enough to train with his teammates. It's very, very interesting, and I certainly would be I like Martial, but there are a lot of issues at Manchester United, and you can't really take a pop at the manager for dealing with things in that way. But look, it is what it is. I don't know whether you saw this on Twitter today. I mean, just a bit of a show. Oh, I tell you what, I do need to show you. If you've been seeing my Instagram, you'd see it, and I've got one behind me anyway. Take a look at these. Whoa. What about that? I mean, I don't play much football anymore, but I've got to get on the pitch this season. I was out in my back garden playing with these today. Check out my Instagram, @GoldbridgeMark. But the reason I'm showing you is you don't see boots like this. I used to have Predators ages ago, and they've got the rubber ridges there. Oh, I just love them. I just absolutely love them. They're great, absolutely fantastic. But I don't really know why I'm showing you them, really. I think it's just because I want to get back playing football. I want to get back on the pitch. CDM. We don't get dominated by only the last 5 teams in this league. You can literally see the team getting worse every year, says Tusha. I fear we might get relegated in the next 5 years. I don't think that's going to happen, Tusha. I don't think that'll ever happen. And but look, I wanted to bring this in. If City get booted, they go to the Super League, says Jonathan. There's nobody in the Super League. And Dennis says, we need Manscaped to sponsor a Goldbridge United ownership. Only Mark can trim the bush of that midfield, says Dennis. Thank you very much. Rashford out in the summer for proper rebuild, says Bashir. Look, I've said countless times I wouldn't sell Rashford. But in a hypothetical devil's advocate position, I am absolutely convinced that Sir Jim can say all the things he wants, and Ineos and Sir David Brailsford can say all the things they want, about ruthless, you know, culture shift, relentless, nothing's off the table. But I'll tell you now, I'm absolutely convinced that Marcus Rashford will not be sold at any point, and Bruno Fernandes will not be sold this summer. And I'm not saying they should be. That's not what I'm saying. People get this completely and utterly wrong. We did a video on them on Monday. They're our two best attackers. I wouldn't sell them. But I know some people would. But what I'm telling you is they're not going to be sold. So we've got new people coming in on the football side, but I already know 4 or 5 players that will not be sold no matter what. So you can come in and talk about fresh new start, ruthless, you know, brutal, and, you know, all the change that needs to happen will happen. But there are certain players like your Rashfords, like your Brunos, they will not be sold. And I know that today, and Ineos know that today. So yes, they can make change, but there are limitations to the change they can make. So we must be very careful about getting, oh, it's exciting, it's optimistic. There will be certain things they won't do because they won't want to do them. But you will think that that represents being ruthless. They won't do it. It won't happen because they just, I don't know whether even if they've got the power to do it anyway. You know, the Glazers surely would have a say if they tried to sell Rashford because they don't want to sell Rashford. I don't think they want to sell the captain either. I mean, Bruno Fernandes is the captain. So, look, whether you think that needs to happen or not, I don't. I think we've got to try and get that to work, especially over the next 4 months. But not everything's on the table. I don't believe that anything's on the table. Anything is possible. Nobody's safe. I don't believe that. I think that there's ruthlessness within a select group of players. Ruthless will be letting Varane and Casemiro go. It won't be letting Bruno and Rashford go. That won't never happen. And I don't think it should. But I don't think Casemiro should go either. I think letting Casemiro go is a massive mistake. I'm not so sure that Bruno would not be... I've read that one before. We don't get done that one as well. Okay, I just want to drift here to something I saw earlier. And I put it on my Twitter. So basically, this stats... It's almost like... it's my niche, isn't it? If you've been watching the last 2 morning shows, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow because I'm loving it. Towards the end of the morning show yesterday, we were looking at the stats for how many long balls Man United hit this season, and they're right at the top of the league with Luton. And then we were looking at how many offsides we've got, and we're right at the top of the league for offsides. So we hit a lot of long balls, don't we? You know, it's factual. This morning, we were looking at how many shots attackers have had in the Premier League, and you've got Solanke, Watkins, Salah all up near 60. You've got Rasmus Højlund in 27th place with 20 shots. Rashford's had 42. So, you know, again, factually, we're not creating chances for our striker. But then just before I went live tonight, and I did tweet it, I saw this tweet, and it's on my Twitter at Mark Goldbridge, but basically this is it. No player in Europe's Big 5 leagues has more shot-creating actions than Bruno Fernandes with 110. And I was like, I've got to bring this into the show because you've got Rasmus, who's had 20 shots this season, but Bruno is number 1 in Europe for 100 with 110 shot-creating chances. And this is where I go, what are stats doing to football? Like, people swallow this shit and think it's gold. Bruno, my Magnifico, has created 110 shot-creating chances. But then the striker, and we only play with one striker, has only had 20. So what type of chances, what type of shots are these? And if I'm playing as Bruno Fernandes and I'm in the centre circle and I play a 5-yard pass to Anthony, who runs forward 10 yards and shoots from 40 yards, that's a shot-creating chance. You know what I mean? I think we just, you know, I said this the other day. There was an article about Bruno creating 6 chances against Bournemouth when we lost 3-0. And I watched the game and all his passes, and I couldn't find 2 good chances. So, yeah, we've got to be very careful with stats, haven't we? Because 110 shot-creating chances, that literally would be pass it to somebody who shoots, really, which is fine. But I think it does Bruno a disservice because people are starting to go, well, we don't score many goals. We don't create many chances for our striker. So what is he top at? What chances is he actually creating? I think we're just going to have to start digging down a little bit, aren't we, to find out what it is, because I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. And I know people, hipsters, will be going, wow, what it means is this, that, and the other. But I know I do get it. But what I don't get is that, is there no, in stats, is there no regulator that says that's bullshit, that's a stupid stat, you're not having that? Or is it literally you can create, you know, chances created could be as broad as hitting a long ball that finds someone and they shoot, or, you know, passing it to someone on the halfway line who skips past 5 players and puts it in the top corner, and you get that's counted as a chance creation. What I class as chance creation is the sort of thing De Bruyne was doing. You know that pass from De Bruyne to Bob, that's a chance creation. That's an assist. Whether he scores it or not, that's a chance creation. You know, a player down the right-hand side whipping a cross in and someone missing a header, that's a chance creation. Picking it up in the number 10 position and sliding it behind the defender for Haaland to run onto and score, that's a chance creation. I don't think it's a chance creation when you play a 5-yard pass, somebody does something special and then hits it. You know, that's that player doing something off their own back. So, yeah. But look, I've said it to you for years. Some stats are really, really good. The fact that Rasmus has had 20 shots this season and every other striker's in their 50s, you can't deny that's a good stat. It's not a good stat for us, but it's palatable. It's quantifiable. But I still don't think you can beat the eye test. The eye test is what matters. I think we've become so obsessed with stats, and it's the eye test will always be the thing. I know scouts, and they have the data, and it's very useful. But 99.9% of big clubs will always want eye tests on these players. And I don't mean send them down to Specsavers. They will want scouts to go and watch them. Because you don't learn about the temperament or style of a footballer just from what's on bloody Opta. You don't. Our wingers and midfielders all take shots. Scott and Casemiro take twice as many shots per 90 than Højlund. Well, exactly. If you're Bruno and you pass it 5 yards to Delot and he just shoots, that's probably classed as a chance, isn't it? How much do you think Rashford and Bruno are worth, says Bashir? I think Rashford is £80 million, but add 20 on because of, you know, I hate to say this, but brand, you know, it does. You know, Ronaldo's a bad example, but, you know, I think United, if they sold Rashford £100 million, and people will laugh their heads off in the chat, but, you know, you've got to add 20 on just because of he's a hugely popular player. And we'd be stupid not if we sold him, which I wouldn't, and I don't think we will. I say £100 million. Bruno Fernandes is 29 next year. I didn't realise that. So probably for Bruno, 60 for Bruno. But I'd want 100 for Rashford and 60 for Bruno. Realistically, that's what I think. Daniel, and I don't want to sell them. I'm just valuing them. Daniel, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Tariq says Mourinho would revitalise United. He's aware of the shit show that is United and he can work around it. Tariq, I don't care whether you've been sent here by Faz or not. I think it's absolute bullshit that Mourinho could do a job at United. And I'll quickly summarise the 2 reasons. 1, he's fell off. He's not the manager he was 10 years ago. He's just not. You can see it in his face. He's just not a manager that can do it in the modern game anymore. And 2, he's not a builder of clubs. So you've got Sir Jim saying, we don't want Galacticos. We're in it for the long run. We want to bring in exciting, dynamic players for the future. And then you bring Jose Mourinho in, who wants Galacticos ready to go now. Let's go and deliver. Not the right man for now. He was the right man straight after Sir Alex. We should have gone for Mourinho straight after Sir Alex. That was the time to do it. Even when we did get him, it was too late. He'd been sacked by Chelsea when we got him. I think he was already on the decline. I like Jose. I'm looking forward to the documentary, but he's not the guy. He's not the guy. Eric says that Bruno is 30 this year. No. Yeah. He is. Fucking hell. He's just got a year older in seconds. Yeah. Anyway, look, love Jose, but his 6th sacking now for a reason, says De Gea. Look, Wenger was a great coach. And he fell off for 10 years. Most do. I said this when Sir Alex Ferguson retired. The managers that walk out like that, forget about it. It virtually never happens. It never happens. When I think in my lifetime of the great managers that have been in the Premier League, look, Newcastle had Keegan, it fell apart. Brian Clough at Forest was a great manager. He got relegated. Wenger won the Invincibles. He got sacked. Jose sacked at Chelsea. Sir Alex was a living legend, and he walked out the front door with everybody cheering him and a Premier League title. That doesn't happen. That's why he's so great as well. I mean, he was great for many other reasons, but that just doesn't happen. You don't walk out the front door being cheered as a manager. You just disappear. After a couple of sackings, normally that's what happens. The greatest. I mean, be interesting to see what happens with Ancelotti, because he's an amazing coach. Will Ancelotti retire at the top, or will he keep going and end up drifting? Rafa Benitez fell off. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Yeah. Excited about tomorrow. You might not be, but one of my best bits of content coming back tomorrow. Driving with Goldbridge. Looking forward to that. Just a bit of news. Don't forget Manscaped, 20% off. Links in the description or scan the QR code. Fantastic products. Really enjoyed the show tonight. Really good conversation as per usual. These 8 o'clock streams are fantastic. And to be fair, the 10 o'clock streams are good. News show in the morning. And I'm going to bring in another amazing stat. So get ready for that tomorrow morning. Take care what you're doing. Make sure you smash a like and smash and subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Welcome to the new members tonight with your badges. Loving to see that in the chat. Get the badge in, and make sure you stay safe and take care, and I'll speak to you on the next one.